How about damn Cowboys? Probably not the team we expected to be revealed first out of the NFC East, but yeah, I actually have my predictions for Cowboys to finish last in this division. How come? How did we get here? And what's holding them back? Who is the mysterious cage man? I think you all know. I don't really feel like the power structure move that has been done during this offseason have helped this team. The fact that Micah Parsons' deal is still not being made, despite like we are approaching really start of the season. I don't think the future is necessarily bright for the Cowboys, and especially this year, I just don't expect big things out of them. With that being said, I have one big ask for you. If you like these videos, if you appreciate my content, or if you are just Cowboys hater or Cowboys lover, whatever, please leave a like, leave a comment, recommend this video to your friends. It means a world to me. With that being said, let's start and actually talk about the damn Cowboys, shall we? And we start as usual with the draft. And this was actually a draft that I wouldn't say I hate it. I also would not say I loved it. There were parts of it that I was really a fan of, and there were some parts that I'm like, I would go in different direction. So we start with Tyler Booker, and I still grade this as a C, even though I totally understand. But to me, Tyler Booker was kind of like early second round, perhaps end of the first round type of a guy. And to take guard this high, that I don't necessarily rank like not potential Pro Bowler, but multiple time Pro Bowler in the future, it's just doesn't match the value. I understand what it did. Like he matches what they want in terms of running scheme. He kind of fills their need in terms of they needed to replace Zach Martin, who retired. So you understand this pick. That's why I don't slam it. But at the same time, there are other needs on this team that could have been addressed with this 12th pick that would be still great fits and better value in my opinion. So to me, this was just a reach. Then day 2 was one of my favorites actually, because Donovan Ezuraku I felt like was a great value even in this draft that was like stacked with great edge talent. I felt like he is the guy that if you snatch him like midway of the second round, you are getting a value. And to put him on the other side of Micah Parsons, yeah, defenses could have their hands full with him as early as this year. And I feel like he is kind of a really nice hedge of what they had in terms of edge depth behind Micah. And then Shavon Revel, one of my favorite picks, and especially for Cowboys, because with Revel, the question is health. I think the question is not play. Like based on the play, to me, is like borderline end of the first round talent corner. But he has health issues. And when you look at Cowboys secondary, you have two other guys that have health issues in Darren Bland and Diggs. Not Stephon Diggs. I mean, I'm not good with names. You know it by now. I will remember. Trayvon Diggs, someone, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. And to me, like between those three guys, you should kind of always have two of them healthy and actually have pretty stacked corner room in terms of your outside corners. We will talk about nickel and what the situation there is, because it's not pretty. But I really actually like this fit for Revel, because like there is, if everyone is healthy, you will still have opportunities to play all of them combined. There are some potential talk about Darren Bland being sometimes slot corner, sometimes like fulfilling that role of not an outside corner. But overall, I feel like with the injury history of this trio, you are pretty much like using this as opportunity to be confident. Then you have two starting outside corners healthy kind of no matter what, which I think is a pretty nice bet and pretty nice value for Shavon Revel. Then day 3, I'm like leaving very, very underwhelmed. Some of the picks to be made, the only one I was a fan of was J2A, because to me, like he improves their run defense, which kind of says a lot. If 7th round pick could actually help you with your run defense, like as of right now, like I mean, is he their best interior defensive run defender? No, but like he is in the rotation for being like the number 2 simply for rundown. So that kind of tells you about a huge issue that this team has and did not really address. That also goes for Jaden Blue, who, I mean, in a draft stacked with great running back prospects that is deep as all hell, you go for a guy that's underwhelming, in my opinion. So, not really a huge fan. Shamar James, kind of like whatever linebacker pick. I felt like there were better linebackers on the board, even at that point, but Dallas chose him. Overall, like the value of those picks, especially in day 2, are great. Some of the other picks, not so real great. What is a bit of a frustration for me is that this team, to me, had 2 problems. And those 2 problems was we cannot run the ball and we cannot defend run. And okay, Tyler Booker helps with the first thing. But also we saw that in modern NFL, it's not just offensive line that makes running game. You actually need good running backs. And you have not addressed that as Cowboys. I certainly don't believe Jaden Blue has a tremendous future. And I don't think in free agency you've acquired players that are going to create anything better than like 25th at best running back room in the league, which is a problem. And in terms of stopping the run, you have almost done nothing. And that's scary because as much as I like Donovan Ezraku, as much as I think Micah Parsons is one of the, top 15 players in the entire National Football League, like he's effing awesome. If you cannot get yourself to a third down, to clear passing situations, you will like utilize him much less than you would like. It's like similar situation with 49ers last year, like Nick Bosa, in third down situations, they were effective as all hell. The problem is they rarely get in third down situation in which like the pass was clear. I mean, 49ers learned their lesson, invested in their defensive line, invested in their edge group, and pretty much acquired all the talent in the world that they could to stop the run. And Cowboys were like, yeah, no, I don't get it, man. I really don't understand this philosophy. I mean, I'm glad that they at least resigned Osa, but I still feel like it's going to be, I wouldn't say easy to run the ball on them, but it's not going to be the hardest thing in the world. And I still feel like they have not done nearly enough for this run game to be anything good. I don't think it's even a good run game. I think it's going to be below average towards mediocre. So that's where I'm like, individually, I don't have so many problems with this draft, but overall as a strategy, yeah, I have actually a lot of problems with how Cowboys addressed this draft. With that being said, let's look at where this leaves their offense and their personnel. So this offensive line, I mean, it could go several directions because there are 3 young players here. There is Darren Steele, who had finally his like best year in the NFL after they paid him, and like first year after they paid him, he was a problem. And then like last year, I think he got to the point that they were confident not to cut him this offseason, and they expect him to make another step forward. But is that going to happen? And then you have superstar and Tyler Smith. So ideally, you could say, well, Terrence Steele is going to progress, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, Tyler Guyton, like they are all super young in terms of their NFL careers. We expect them to grow. And Tyler Smith is our superstar, is going to always like help this group to at least being nice or like functional. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. There is also another way in which Terrence Steele kind of regresses back to what he was prior to the season, which is like borderline starter. And either Tyler Booker or Cooper Beebe are just like, guys are just guys, nothing special, and like this is slightly a problem. And then Tyler Guyton doesn't improve upon his rookie year, which would be kind of a disaster because like having 18 penalties or under 700 snaps, like that was ridiculous. And I know a lot of Cowboys fans were excited about him after the camp, that he was like, oh my God, this is a great tackle. Who Tyler Smith, whatever. In a year, it didn't look that way. And when you look at who is there to replace these guys, I feel like they have a couple of guards that I'm like, okay, if Tyler Booker is not like ready to go, if he struggle, I kind of understand Brock Hoffman being there, Robert Jones being there. This is nice group. Again, that's why I'm like talking about Tyler Booker and taking him 12 overall, where I feel like you have much bigger issues. I struggle to really like that pick, because like I'm not saying Tyler Booker in his future or even this year is not going to be better than Brock Hoffman. I think he's going to be. But at the same time, like, how much are you spending in terms of that 12th pick to improve over Brock Hoffman, who is a solid player, instead of... So this is not necessarily like the biggest need you have compared to where else you could have spent that 12th pick, where it's Omarion Hampton, where it's Wharton Nolan. You get my point. Like, you could have radically improved your running back room. You could have radically improved your defensive line, though like Wharton Nolan is not necessarily like the best run defender, but like imagine that pass rush if you somehow finally stumble into a great defensive line that can stop the run, and then you have Wharton Nolan, Osa, and Micah Parsons rushing the QB. And it's not like Wharton Nolan is like a putrid run defender. So you get my gist. And also, what I'm thinking is like, I have not necessarily seen great tackles, like a swing tackle for this team, which kind of leaves me to believe that their plan, if Tyler Guyton struggles or if someone gets injured, is to move Tyler Smith towards tackle, which he can do, but you would be taking an all-pro, I would say top 5 guard in the league, and make him a tackle where he's just really good, which like already, you are actually like pushing down his power or his overall ranking just by putting him towards tackle. This is not to him. Like, this is similar to like Sam Cosmi playing tackle versus playing guard. It's similar like the what's the guy in the Patriots? Yeah, I know me with my names. But you get my idea. So I also don't like this strategy. So I feel like they are kind of proof in terms of guards, but in terms of tackles, it feels like their idea is, let's put Tyler Smith, yeah, me and names. That's silly thing. Tyler Smith out there, which I don't necessarily agree with. So again, there is a world in which Tyler Guyton runs from his first year and becomes 25th best left tackle in the league, which would be a really nice progress. Tyler Booker in this run scheme is a menace in the run game and can pass protect because he has Cooper Beebe and Tyler Smith next to him. Cooper Beebe continues to, perhaps enter the conversation about 10th best center in the league, which definitely is in the realm of possibility. And Terrence Steele continues to play, I would say, worthwhile. Compare his contract, which is kind of massive for Terrence Steele. It's like $16 million a year, something like that. So that's a positive spin, but the chances of that ain't as big as you would like, especially given the investments into this group. Now let's talk about Dak Prescott, because the talk with Dak is, I would say a lot of people underestimate him. A lot of people think he's better than he is. To me, he's just around that top 10 QB in the league, which is still a pretty great spot. And he can have stretches where he looks like a top 5 QB. But would I bank on him in the playoffs? No. His playoff records is abysmal. But you could say, well, but you say Justin Herbert is on that. Understand. Or like Jalen Hurts this or that. Understand. Understand that if you use playoff success as a criterion, you have to give those nods or like those down arrows towards other guys like Justin Herbert, like Jalen Hurts. With Justin obviously down, with Jalen obviously up. To me, it's just one of the things, right? Like, I'm going to mention it because like it's big stain on his career, because like every time in the playoffs, like he didn't really carry this team on his shoulders. And you can say the same about Justin Herbert. The other thing is he's coming back from an injury. It should not be like the injury that really prevents him to have a nice off season. So I'm not that worried. But what I'm worried about, beside the potential of this offensive line actually not being very good, is he's moving from Mike McCarthy, who I would still say that, when the McCarthy/Rodgers split up happened in Packers, the narrative was, okay, we are going for better things, and like Rodgers was the one carrying Mike McCarthy on his shoulders. I'm not necessarily certain about that, and I had my critiques of Mike McCarthy, and I would say rightfully so. I don't think he's a coach that when you enter the playoffs, he's going to give you an advantage over Andy Reid's of the world, over Harbaugh's of the world, over Sean McVay's of the world, in terms of innovation, in terms of quality. But I got quite a lot of respect for him end of last year, where pretty much nobody kind of watched Cowboys because they were out of the playoffs, they were not playing with Dak, and it was kind of Mike football. But the way that this team rallied behind him, was kind of impressive. I mean, CeeDee Lamb played hurt, Micah Parsons came back from the injury just to play, even though the season was over. But the team rallied behind them, and they were actually like really putting a fight against good teams, like against Tampa. And they were able to beat some of the really good teams. So to me, there is an element about Mike McCarthy of like he brings people together. He makes the team better by his presence, not necessarily by being the best, X and O coaches, but just as a like leader of the man, if you want to say that. So for a team that Super Bowl might not be their aspiration, I would say Mike McCarthy is really nice choice for them. It's like about the overall culture of the football, about the overall, say, belief in this team. And I would say that in other areas he's kind of average, not bad, but kind of average. But you go from that to Brian Schottenheimer, who I don't know what he's good at. Like, I honestly believe he is one of the worst 3 head coaches in the league. He might be the worst one. And I feel like his appointment is just Jerry Jones kind of wanting to have even more control than he does. Good luck, Cowboys. I mean, I don't know, like I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Brian from his time with the Seahawks, but I don't know what he necessarily did to deserve this opportunity. Like, is he offensive guru? No. Is he great leader of men? No. I don't think he was a head coach candidate on any other team other than Cowboys. And for the Cowboys it was kind of like perhaps they missed on their main targets, and then it was like, okay, but we already decided to let go of Mike McCarthy. Similar situations to what like New York Knicks in basketball are doing this offseason, when they let go of Tim Thibodeau, who may not be the best coach, but he's pretty damn good, similar to Mike McCarthy, and they perhaps have ideas who they want, but those coaches reject them, and it's like, oh, okay, so we need to settle for like a plan C. And for better or worse, like I really feel like Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott work well together. And I'm not sure that Brian Schottenheimer and Dak is going to have the same chemistry. So, I still mention that Dak Prescott for an MVP could be a case for this year, and I still believe that, even though that if I have to predict the entire season, I think it's more likely that this team is actually going to end up fourth than Dak having an amazing season. The reasons for that is I think they're going to struggle to run the ball, and they will just have to throw a lot, which will help Dak to accumulate numbers. Who should help him with that? Well, let's check the weaponry. And it's a good one. I struggle to say it's great. It's a pretty good one. And how could it not be when you have CeeDee Lamb, who is, I think, arguably top 5, if you want to be super, super safe, top 7 wide receiver in the league, like in that conversation. Like, I'm not going to get into ordering those guys. He's freaking awesome. Like, he absolutely earned my mad respect, like last year when he played injured. And just like, even in kind of meaningless games, he just was a leader, which I was not sure that it's in him. I really have nothing bad to say about his game and about how he conducts himself on the field. So absolute kudos to him. And they finally got themselves a number 2 in George Pickens. And George is an interesting character to let's be said. And the hit rate of former Pittsburgh great wide receivers that were a bit of head cases that went elsewhere is pretty abysmal. So again, there is a world in which George Pickens understands that this is a luxury opportunity. This is like, for George Pickens, this is the best spot in the world because he has very competent quarterback. He has number 1 wide receiver that's going to take a lot of attention from him in terms of defenses. He's in the team that's not going to be running ball very well, so there is going to be a lot of throws, and he could absolutely use this opportunity to have massive season. I think there is 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. That's absolutely a possibility for George Pickens, even next to CeeDee Lamb, because there is going to be a lot of ball to be thrown around. That's the best case scenario, that he understands that, and that if he does that, he's going to earn a massive contract, whether it's with the Cowboys or somewhere else. And then there is the other side of George Pickens, in which, like, a lot of Pittsburgh wide receivers, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown, to just name a couple, they just don't work out. They cannot get from their own way. They prevent themselves in a way to fulfill their career. So we'll see. Definitely another huge wild factor for this team. And then the rest of the passing options in Jalen Torbert, Kevin Turpin, Jake Ferguson, who I'm kind of lower than, I would say, consensus. I think they are nice weapons. You can scheme around them, though. Is the scheming necessarily going to be great under Schottenheimer? I have my doubts. So they kind of need CD and Pickens to work, and it could. It really could be very nice passing offense, because these two guys and Dak is pretty much a guarantee of, is this Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase? No, but it's not super far away from that trio. But let's shift towards running game, and here I just have a problem, because Javonte Williams, it's sad, but I feel like injuries just took away from him and from us the potential of what this guy could be. I just don't feel like he has got back to where he was his first year in the NFL, and unfortunately I just don't think he will get there. I'm glad for him that he's getting this opportunity. He has a chance to compete for number 1 running back, but if we talk about potentially him being number 1 running back and playing like he was in the last couple of years, then Cowboys are going to struggle to run the ball. And when we talk about who could be there also, it's Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, and it's a lot of guys that had great seasons. In Miles Sanders, it was with Philly, and Javonte Williams with the Broncos. But they are, if you look at their last 2-3 years, there are more names than they are great running backs. And Jaden Blue doesn't really fill me with hope for this team. And in terms of wide receivers, it's pretty much similar, Jonathan Mingo. Once upon a time, he was drafted in the 2nd round. So far, he's been shit in the NFL. And the same you can say about Luke Schoonmaker. So they really need George Pickens to work, and this running game to somehow not be the bottom 5. If this running game is at least decent and George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb works, that it's going to be hard for them to finish last in this division. Not impossible, because it's not this is their only problems. In terms of backup QB, they have Joe Milton. Interesting choice to get him from the Patriots. I feel for the price, which was 5th round or something, I understand this is really nice, but I just don't really get it for Joe Milton, because they did jack shit with Trey Lance. They had him for 2 years, and he showed no improvements whatsoever. And now, you are coming here to what I believe is actually even worse stuff than it was those 2 years. And when you are this QB that's clearly coming as a backup, you should be about to learn. And I really don't know if he's going to learn that much here. So I understand for the Cowboys, it was kind of nice pickup, and like he shown in that one game that there is something to work there. I'm not really happy for him. I really feel like this could have been like this is not a great sport for him to develop, and like overall for the Cowboys it would probably be more practical to have back Cooper Rush, which was kind of impossible the way they treated him in the last game for some freaking bonus. You kind of make your own bet, Cowboys. So this is the offense. Like there is huge potential. Like, you know, this offensive line can actually work together. Like we saw guys being honestly miserable year one, and then like being pretty good year two when they are drafted that high, as Tyler Guyton was. Tyler Booker, as much as I have my reservation about that pick, like I really see how he fits. I like Cooper Beebe. I definitely love Tyler Smith in terms of like he's a freaking great, and I think Terrence Steele could work as a right tackle. So there is definitely worth when this is, you know, borderline top 10 offensive line, when Dak is kind of top 10 QB, when CD Lamb and George Pickens is amazing duo and this running game does not suck, and they are going to be menace to stop. But that's kind of the best case scenario. And the worst case scenarios are not very, very fun. Now, let's shift towards defense. And we start with defensive line. And I think it's a tale of two parts of this defense. And one part is run defense and second part is pass rush. And in terms of pass rush, with Micah Parsons, you will always be relevant. When you put Osa next to him, who is really a menace from the interior, that's a problem. Not to mention Dante Fowler, which is a very nice signing, coming back here. You also have really nice like depth in terms of Marshall Nealon, who was kind of brought here to be DeMarcus Lawrence replacement last year, which I think is going to work eventually. Donovan Ezraku, I really like this pick in this year's draft. So yeah, from the edge, not really a problem. I think this is a very, very competent edge group that, you know, on high end could be 7th best, you know, like when Dante Fowler is kind of your average 3 and Ezraku or Nealand are kind of 2s in a way, probably not this year, but they can get there. And you obviously have Micah as an alpha. That could absolutely work. In the meantime, you have pressure from Osa from the middle. Totally something that you don't want to face as an offensive line. Like they are a handful to deal with. The problem I have is how often they will get to clear passing downs, because who is going to stop the run here? I don't necessarily think it's going to be the linebackers, and when you look at Osa, it's not necessarily what he excels at. When you look at Mazi, it's absolutely not what he excels at. And Micah, as great as he is, like he's not a good run defender from the edge. Like he's not that big to be a good run defender, so it's not really on him, right? And it's been out there for every Cowboys opponent for last 4 years that you can run down their throat, and like I just don't see how that's going to like change this year. I really kind of don't. I mean, how do you stop Saquon and Eagles offensive line? I don't know. How do you stop Jaden Daniels? I don't know. I just feel like they lack power. And here let's talk about like in general how their games could look like. It's like this team should like struggle heavily with time of possession, because if the best thing that the offense has, which I would say it's pretty clear that it's passing the ball, those drives are definitely shorter than when you rush and rush and rush. And again, if this defense cannot stop the run, it means other offenses will be able to hold the ball a lot. So you can really exhaust this defense, and offense is not necessarily a complement to them to help them out, because, well, they might score 7 points back on the board in 2 minutes. Great, but that means that this defense has to go in like 5 or 10 minutes back towards the field and face another exhausting running game from the opponent, and I just don't think they are equipped to do so. So the really, like when we last time saw this Cowboys team to be really a powerhouse, it was we have decent enough run game, we have kind of unstoppable offense in terms of passing game, and because we are leading so much, the teams have to pass the ball against us, and we can unleash Micah. That's a good thing. I just don't feel like you are able to get towards these big leads with the offense as you have it. And with that, it just allows the other offenses to settle down, rush the ball, and how do you stop it? Like, perhaps Mazi in his third year is going to figure it out. Like, Osai is like solid run defender. He's not like bad at it. With Dante, you have no, you just have worse run defender than the Marcus Lawrence. Like, it's not there. So I don't know. And again, like, maybe Jay Toya from 7th round is going to somehow save the day. But this was a draft in which, like, 49ers showed you, like, everybody know what they are going to do. They brought Salah. They were like, okay, we are going to reforge our D-line. And they done it. Why? What stopped you from drafting defensive tackle just for the purpose of stopping the run? I don't know. Like, okay. So that's kind of my rant. I really feel like this is one of the most split defensive line in the league in terms of pass rush, top 5, top 7, something like that. Run defense, last, close to last, something like that. In terms of linebackers, they kind of continue their team from this offseason, where it's like, we take 1 year chances on players with high draft pedigree or some resume, but perhaps players that not necessarily played well in the last couple of years. And they did it with Kenneth Murray. And I'm like, I mean, I feel like I saw several much better linebackers going for much less than Kenneth Murray is. I mean, there is still theoretical upside with his physical tools that he has. But, like, he needs to start playing the ball well. I mean, sorry, like, it needs to happen. And again, if it has happened, you don't even have, like, the luxury of having him on cheap deals for next year. So you are pretty much taking a chance that it's going to happen. And if it does, you have nice value for 1 year. But on the, I don't know, 90% chance that this doesn't happen, you kind of wasted 7.5 million. And again, like, if I would be in charge of the Cowboys and I'm looking at what my problems are, and I'm like thinking to myself, well, for some reason I'm not going to address it in the draft, then I would at least attack someone like Elandon Roberts, who is this amazing run defender in terms of linebackers. I know, like, it doesn't solve your defensive line issues, but at least it helps. And he signed for like $3 million a year. Like, I don't know. I am not, as you can see, I'm not stoked about Kenneth Murray and his assignment here. Next to him, Damon Clark. I think he's a solid player. We will see how much he can contribute. Can he be necessarily leader of this room, or is this going to be like two guys that I don't want to call them headless chickens, but like, who is going to like lead this group? You know, who is going to like really read coverages and not leaving the spot wide opens. You know, they will make occasional nice plays and even some tackles for us. But a lot of the time, there will be space left in the middle of the field that I think offenses are going to be happily attacking. Obviously, the big question mark is DeMarvion Overshown, because if he's out there, he's definitely LB1 for me, the best one and the highest upside one from these guys. The problem is there is a lot of talk about him actually missing this whole season, and it doesn't necessarily sheds a good light on the Cowboys doctors, which is like why Shavon Revel to them is like that was one minor question mark. It's like because they were supposedly the guys that did surgery on Jonathan Brooks, that hold him for like 1 month and then he re-injured it and misses another year, and perhaps like he's never going to be able to come back and play it at his level. And with Overshown, he should have been healthy by start of this year, and it seems like he might actually miss the season, so it like puts it into question. In terms of other linebackers, they have Maris Liufau. I think he's going to be playing more as an edge or like outside linebacker. in terms of inside linebacker, Jake Sanborn, I actually feel like is a more solid option than Kenneth Murray, but he does not necessarily have the highest of the upsides. But I would not be shocked if they, like kind of by week 5, actually handed the job to Jake Sanborn, if Overshown is not there. In terms of backups for this defensive line, again, like I feel like it's pretty good in terms of edge. I don't necessarily see, anyone I trust in terms of interior. So that's a pretty scary situation because Mazi Smith as a good backup, that's like based on his draft status and what I thought about him in the draft process. But he has not been playing even as a good backup in the league. So yeah, that's that. Now let's take our side towards the secondary, and like one thing that is a question for me is who is going to be playing slot corner, because they let go Jordan Lewis, and I was kind of questioning that signing from the Jaguars part. Not necessarily that they would overpay him. I was questioning it because Jaquarin Jones, there I think it was like a 5th round pick, actually played super nice there. And I feel like, why are you trying to push him outside to bring kind of not a cheap free agent here? I didn't understand that, but we will talk about that in Jaguars episode. But like, if I could have Jordan Lewis here or Kenneth Murray, for example, I'm like, yeah, bring me Jordan Lewis, like 999 times of 1,000. The same goes with like the way they signed their running backs instead of prolonging Rico Dowdle. So I was not a huge fan of their free agency strategy, and it leaves me questioning who is actually going to play as their nickel, as their slot corner. And there are talks that it could or should be Darren Bland, which like he started there or like learned there behind Jordan Lewis, and like he might be good there, but like with his history of injury, do you really want to put him there where I would say this is a more physically demanding position, more tackles? I don't think that's necessarily the smartest idea. And with Kyle Elam, I also think he's more of an outside corner. So, despite me, I actually like the secondary. They have 2 good safeties. They have 4, I would say, very solid corners, with Trevon Diggs having real nice potential to be like low-key number 1, excellent number 2, Darren Bland, good to great number 2. Both of them have ball skills. They can swing games, and I think that this team is going to need some interceptions to come their way. So for them to have these guys, it's beneficial. But in terms of how they actually spend their resources, I'm not a huge fan, because to me it still leaves one spot on this defense kind of open, and if it's going to be filled by Darren Bland, I don't necessarily like the decision. I think he's going to play good there, but in terms of his longevity and his injury proneness, that's really not a good path for him. What is there to say about Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson? I feel like you kind of know what you are getting. I'm sorry for the Cards. It's not like they had 61 and 56 interceptions. This was supposed to be their tackle numbers, so sorry for that. They're kind of similar players. You know what you're getting. It's a very solid room. I don't know, 10-ish to 15-ish best safety room in the league. No problems there, but they are not going to move the needle forwards for you. And in terms of backups there, Kalen Carson, who had a pretty shitty rookie year, and they have I think Von Bell as a veteran here potentially. It's not bad. It's not like they don't have starters. It's like I still feel one spot is kind of questionable, and overall this is not a secondary that is like exceptional in anything. So when you look at this defense, if you can go towards a situation when you can rush the quarterback, when the teams are going to be behind, it could be tough to get from like big deficits against the Cowboys, because you have guys that are going to really fight you for interceptions. You have Micah Parsons to give a lot of pressure on your quarterback. But if it's like a close game or like the lead is not that big, I just expect them to run on you and, occasionally expose Darren Bland and Trevon Diggs for their over aggressiveness. And instead of interceptions, you have big plays. So I feel like this defense has potential to be good in certain game scripts, even great. And at the same time, they could be truly atrocious despite having Micah Parsons in other game scripts. So very dependent on what the situation is going to be. And that's yet another, I would say, uncertainty about this Cowboys team. And when you stack this up, there's just way too many things that I don't really like about this team. That even though the high-end talent in Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, Dak Prescott is freaking amazing, I just don't think it's going to lead to great results. Speak of that, let's take a look at their schedule. So I ultimately think they are going to finish 7-10. I'm sorry, in the second picture it should be 2-3, not 2-4. So it's going to start with Dak Prescott, how he's going to be, I would say, feeling or looking after the injury. And the start is not easy. Like at Eagles, good effing luck. At home against Cowboys, at home against the Giants and the defensive line, that ain't easy at all. Then Bears, I think the Bears could be actually a sneaky good team for them to attack, because I'm not super certain that they will be able to run the ball super effectively. So this could be a game in which Micah Parsons actually has his way, even with newly formed and invested offensive line of the Bears. But then Packers at home, at Jets, at Panthers, winnable games for sure. But also, while I kind of like the matchup against the Bears, I kind of hate the matchup against the Jets, because I think Jets offensive line, especially week 5, where it's going to be put together with Justin Fields, I think this is a game that, if you told me that Jets had 40 minutes time of possession, I would not be shocked, and that would be one hell of a game to come up victorious if that's going to be the case. So I would say if they start 3-3, they could be kind of happy. And then short of hope, Brian Schottenheimer, I just am not a big fan. And for them to face Commanders, then go at Broncos, face Cardinals, and after bye week go at Raiders and face Eagles, I just don't think they are going to come out from this on positive side of the equation. And with being 5-6, they could still persuade themselves that they are in the hunt, that they should not be selling, that perhaps they will somehow acquire Jonathan Mingo or whatever. I still don't understand that trade, but whatever. But when you look at how their season is going to end, I just don't think they have firepower to match with those teams. And again, talking about CeeDee Lamb and how he actually put his body out there for Mike McCarthy, I feel like he was really one of the guys that absolutely wanted him to stay. I don't think they're going to really behind Brian Schottenheimer. And actually predicting them 2-4 when I see the opposition, that's still not towards the talent that this team has, especially in terms of high ends. But do I expect them to grind out the ball at Lions or at Commanders? Not really. Beating Chargers, that's going to be hard. And then you have Chiefs, you have Vikings, and you are facing Giants, last week. Perhaps that could be a winnable game with Jackson Dart. Who knows how Giants will actually approach that game. But I really feel like they just will feel like they are middle of the pack team, perhaps even under that because of the coaching here. And that's pretty much it. I would be surprised if this team kind of goes on some kind of a run. It's possible because there is high-end talent to do it, and there are scenarios in which this team could really play top 10-ish football. But I would say that requires a lot of things to go right, and I kind of don't necessarily believe that they will do that. And I'm not really sure that there is a nice way out of this situation that Cowboys kind of put themselves in with the highest paid QB in Dak Prescott, with I would say questionable decisions on top, not necessarily great head coach, some weird contract situations where it's like, yeah, we ain't paying Dak, and then you beat Browns, and then you pay him, and everything is full of sun, and then in 3 weeks it all goes to shit because you lose to Saints, and like, yes, yeah, so I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right with my read on the Cowboys. Ultimately, I think they're going to be kind of similar to what Lions were with Matthew Stafford for a couple of years, where it's like, yeah, they have Megatron, they have Matthew Stafford, there's CeeDee Lamb, there's Dak Prescott. Like, it's going to be kind of impossible for them to be shit show, but the high end hopes, I don't really see that happening, and that's kind of the worst situation for the franchise to be in, at least in my opinion, because you are not bad enough for yourself to persuade yourself into a rebuild, but you also don't feel like a Super Bowl contender any year whatsoever. And obviously, when you look at this division with Super Bowl champions, with Commanders and Jaden Daniels, and with Giants that I'm kind of low-key in love with how they assemble their defensive line, and I cannot wait to see it in practice. It's not an easy place to be. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching, and see you with the next one.